All right. Hello, everybody. My name is Riley. I'm just currently in your class as well. I was just making this video to hopefully help anybody out that is having trouble on this ECUA project, because I sure was. And I just want to kind of show you guys at least the first three transactions. And if you're having trouble after that, definitely just, I guess, reach out, say something in discussion. I would love to help anybody. I was having trouble for a very long time, and so that's kind of the reason I'm making this video. So this is made for Miss Copeland's class AIS, and let's move forward. So as you can see, I kind of have all of my little things ready. This is kind of what I use. I do have two monitors. I would say if you have a desktop and you have a laptop, I would say use either print out the transaction list, the price list, the flow chart, or just have another monitor used or open for these three, and maybe even four for this. So yeah, I would say have these up, have them ready. Definitely helps you out. Have some sort of notepad. I wrote it on paper, but I'm having this so I can show you guys kind of my thought process slash kind of like what I do to write, and then finally a calculator for some particular topics we'll be going over. So let's move forward. So first off, we have our transaction one. I think most of you guys have seen Miss Copeland do this. If you haven't, she has a video on there. This is basically it's a very straightforward one, if you will. It just kind of takes a little bit used to knowing, I guess if that makes sense. And to kind of break this down, I personally would start here. Okay, I see purchase order. So we have some sort of purchase going on from a different company. So what I personally would write, okay, transaction one, purchase order. Okay, so we know there's going to be some sort of purchase order, meaning some sort of document that has a purchase order name. As you can see, every single transaction actually lists the document you're using. Um, so for this instance, document number four. Okay, so we'll go here, we'll look for document number four. Well, it says here, if I can find it, it says here from Rosemont. Well, we have two of them, one's Hawkins, one's Rosemont, right? So we'll go here. This kind of shows basically a rough, well, I wouldn't say rough. It is literally what the company is um, buying. So for this instance, what Rosemont is buying from us, they're buying these, and as you can see here, here's my signature. You basically find this out, not to diverge too much, but actually I'll show it to you later. But that's the signature for the account. All right, so now you're gonna move forward. You found the purchase order. See if we can find the transaction. And so it's basically saying that all goods were shipped. Okay, except 40 were not. So if we go back here, we basically were sent out 75, but only 40. For me, obviously, this is going to be different. I will say this ahead of time. Your numbers are going to be different, probably particularly this number, and maybe even this number. But I know for a fact this number is going to be different for you guys. Um, essentially, this is how this is going to work. You have 40 shoulder pads that were not sent, or rather, they were sent. Sorry. So received all except only received 40 shoulder pads. Okay, this is kind of where I would be at. Okay, so now you're kind of moving forward. You've kind of gotten your very rudimentary information done, and now you kind of want to be like, okay, well, what does this information tell me? What do I need to do next? All right, so at this point, you would kind of result to your flowchart. Um, so step one is to always verify your information, figure out what it's telling you, identify what you're kind of needing to do, and then two, go to your flowchart, which will basically show you here. So this page will say 18 to 19. It says we do need a manual entry, which is that's what basically this thing means is we're going to be manually putting something into the document. Um, so we go to page 18. So actually here we are already on the first one. So we're receiving a customer purchase order, check. Here's the manual entry. Actually, sorry, nope, it's not. So here's the electronic, I guess, document. I think is what this signal means. Um, and then check. So we got that. And so now we have to pick items in inventory and fill order. Um, check. Actually, that's already done. So this is what this is. So then your check. Okay. So next manual entry, which is what this think it's I don't know, some sort of trapezoid. You want to prepare your pre-numbered bill of lading. So that is your first step. So we've discussed this first step. Number one, or sorry, I guess with number two, for me, I'd say number one, um, bill of lading. Just kind of depends on your thought process. So you first step, my first step would be bill of lading. So let's go to bill of lading. You'd find that either, I think it would tell you, um, okay, so it doesn't tell you in this one. Some of the times it'll tell you, but this one doesn't tell you what document you're going to be using. So you're going to like, kind of like scroll through your unorganized document list and look, here we go. It's going to be in document 5. So you can write that down. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. Just kind of depends on how many documents there are. But in this case, there's only like 3 of them, so you kind of don't really need to worry about it. Here's what mine looks like. Yours is going to look a little bit different, but at least you'll know kind of what you are expected for. This is kind of what it's going to look like at the end. Your number is going to be a little bit different, probably here, um, that kind of thing. But everything else except for here and here are going to look different. Um, so my goal is not to show you what I put, it's kind of to tell you how to do it, because if I just show you exactly all of my documents, you're not gonna be able to do any of them. And personally, the only reason I wouldn't show you that, other than, I can't do that because academic stuff, would also be in case there's a test and you don't know how to do it. So I highly recommend testing this stuff on your own, moving forward from that point. So here we are, we have our bill of lading. I want to say what this would look like. I don't know exactly what it would look like blank, but I'm sure you can see it right now. Um, Basically, all this information would be out of here. So a lot of this stuff can be kind of figured out from A, either inside the transaction list, and B, um, kind of like from previous information that was from another document, which is going to be a really running theme within this project. So I'll show you kind of how I did it. A lot of the information can be kind of found in your previous document that was used, if that makes sense. So, I guess you could even say like step 0, identify information from previous slash pre-existing documents. And now you'd move on to your step 1, which is prepare your bill of lading. Um, so you could write down all of this stuff. I highly recommend either having some sort of second monitor. I don't know if you can pull this up on your phone. I would try. Having to do this, and this all the time is very time consuming and can kind of make you not want to do this project. So I would highly recommend finding some sort of way, whether it be taking a picture of this on your phone and having your phone up and kind of looking down at your phone and filling the information from there. So have a second monitor, have a picture of it, and it'll make it a lot easier. All right, so let's move forward. So a lot of this stuff can be kind of, again, found from this information. You'll have this is from that previous, this is from the previous, this is from previous. This is from current. It also might be from previous as well. Yeah, you can find it here, but it's also in the current. This is current. This is, I believe, current as well. So, okay, so current, 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 I believe. Current. So, a lot of this stuff you'll kind of figure out. I feel like I'll waste a lot of time just sitting here current, previous. So I think you can all understand what you need to do from that point on. So we'll kind of skip past that. So this is basically asking you to set up a bill of lading. What that will look like is the information you got previously, and then all of the information from your current thing that is going on. So how to determine what you need currently is a mixture of number one, knowing from your flowchart, which is genuinely the hardest part throughout all these transactions, is knowing what information that you need to use. So since we know, well, we need to use a bill of lading, we're already past our hard part. And so now we need to figure out this information, which is the easy part. So my information is listed here. You can put, so this is what I put, and I know is right. You put all of your information from these here, this line of numbers, and then you put all of this information from here to this line. How you get these right here is from your price list. All of our price lists in terms of the numbers are going to be different, but all of our description and item numbers are all going to be the same. Um, so for instance, basketball pulp, or sorry, goal and rim sets. So we'll have that. Here it is. BB267. BB267. So you'd write out the full BB, or rather the full packaging number, and then you'd write out the full description of the article. There's not really special marks or exceptions, just kind of ignore that. And then you move on to the next point, so the weight. Um, a lot of you may make the mistake of just putting the exact weight I did, as well as or unfortunately, or well, not unfortunately, it's a very, I was doing it, our TA did it. It's a very common thing to do. So just kind of remember, don't do that. You want to write down the multiplication of how many it is. 'Cause it says per carton, not of all cartons. So for this instance, it'd be okay. So let's write down our numbers. So you do five. I have 5 units of the cartons, or sorry, of the pull sets or something like that. And then you want to multiply that by the amount of pounds they are. So for this instance, you want to do 5 times 42, which is going to be 210, and you do that for pretty much for every single one. I'm not going to sit here and do that for the sake of times, but you kind of understand the gist. You do all the weight, and this is going to be all the same number. This kind of comes from, again, this right here, the freight rate, and then this is auto-completed for you. All of this information, except for this freight charge right here, is, I don't want to say useless, but does not apply to us. So just kind of ignore it. You can either put NA or leave it alone. And I personally would recommend just not putting anything into it, because I'm not sure if the auto grading kind of could recognize what n/a means. So to kind of, let's move forward from that point. So you figured out all this information, you've inputted all this information in, and now you want to go to your freight charges. How you determine that is basically, give me 1 second. Let me see. Here we go. What this is. So it says FOB shipping point will be paid by Rosemont, which basically means the customer that you have is going to pay for their own shipping, which means bill to the shipper. So you are shipping it. How the signatures work, actually, I'll come back to that. So we have the carriers, again, from previous information. John Aarons is the truck driver, I believe. Yep. And then you have the date, which can always be found right here. So let's move past to the more, I would say, confusing segments, is the signatures, the initials, and then the names. How these essentially work is everything in this comes from your project instructions book. So I've already opened it just for the sake of time. I would highly recommend having that open for certain things, such as this for instance, anything to do with signatures. So it kind of starts here. So it says Ree Kramer is the salaried manager. He's on salary, no, not hourly. And so he, does all of these. And so he would basically um, be involved for these signatures. So since we are doing a bill of lading, we can, kind of skim through it. Okay, pre-list, nope, 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 nope. Prepares purchase orders, sell invoices, ships and receives goods. They ship and receives good. Prepare shipping and receiving documents. Okay. So that's got to be Nancy Ford. So you do a signature. I'll be honest, I'm not entirely sure what requires a signature and what requires a title. So what I highly recommend is kind of using your own understanding. If it's going to be kind of like an official document, you normally sign those in real life. So safe. So this is the first step. So I know this kind of that is honestly the longest step, I would say. So you finish your bill of lading, you kind of fill that out, you sign it, yada yada yada. So now you want to move on to step 2. This is where it kind of gets a little bit confusing. So you finish this, you follow your flowchart, done. Okay, so now I want you to go to number 1, which is all the way the hell back up here. Now you got to do your invoice. Okay, so we'll find our invoice, which is going to be a charge sale invoice of 731, I believe, or maybe 732. No, this is right. Yep, so 731. So this is what this looks like. Essentially, what you're doing here is taking the information you just got from the last one and putting it on here. Um, this is another instance where you're not signing, you're just kind of writing. Um, and then now you want to kind of put in what you actually just put in from your last one. So this customer purchase order is from your, I believe, the bill of lading. No, sorry, I correct myself. This is from genuinely, this is from the purchase order. So all this information is from that first document we went through. So just kind of to show you guys what that is. It's this one right here. Oh, I don't know if you guys can see. Nope, you can't. Hold on. Is this one right here. So you would use this for the following document, which is a constant thing within this course, or I guess this project, is you have a lot of things like that where you have to consistently. I sigh because it's very annoying, but you have to always have reuse documents that you thought you were done with. So moving forward, how this basically works is you take these from the purchase order, all the things you've ordered. This kind of explains what these letters mean. So this means back ordered. Um, and then you re-put all the product numbers which you got from the previous. It will auto complete it. So like let's say I put it here, it's gonna repeat it. So goal ribbon set. And then now this is where it gets kind of the difference. You have your shipped, and then look 40. This number's gonna be different for you guys, but this is essentially this number from your transaction. It was the only available sets. Um, and then you again, everything else is probably going to be whatever this number is. So, um, and then this is your unit price, which don't have it mistaken for your cost. It's going to be your selling price. The best way to know is if it's higher, if it's really low, or I would say less on average than $100, you know you're putting in the wrong number. And then here, this is a number where I know this is gonna look a little bit different than yours, because I think it might be my browsing thing that messes mine up, but it'll auto-complete all of your numbers. It'll show you a number right here. So I would heavily recommend either having a picture of this in the future or just copy and pasting this number onto like a notepad, or even I would say writing it down. This is going to be our, give me one second, I'll do this for you guys. Um, okay, so this is going to be our invoice number, or sorry, invoice debit or something like that, like how much you're gonna pay. Um, I believe, or how much you're receiving. Sorry, how much you're receiving. Um, so yeah, remember that number. It's gonna be your total sale essentially. And then you're gonna have a number here. Um, I'll explain that next because we're gonna have to move towards it. So then we have our signature. This is Jim Adams. Again, how you figure this out is from the instructions. It basically says, you know, payroll, prepares checks, prepares journals and subsidiary ledgers, receives pre-list cash, credit memos. What would this fall under? It's an invoice, so I want to say it's probably a credit memo. That's kind of where I got it from. Um, because I feel like the best way to know if you're confused, Nancy is just recently hired, so she doesn't, handle a large amount of money most of the time. Jim Adams has been here for a year, so he handles like majority of the large amount of monies. And then Kramer doesn't really do anything for the company. He's kind of a micromanager. I'm just joking, but he just kind of handles a lot of like the larger things that are kind of like he doesn't want to have some sort of like influence from um, his hourly employees that he doesn't care about. So, moving forward. So now let's explain this number, 406. So after you fulfill all this stuff, which is pretty straightforward, you'll have this number that you don't know. So this kind of leads you into this next step. So let's kind of remember what this means. So you're here, you've done this. So now you want to go back to your flowchart. So ship customer order. You don't really need to do this. I'll just say that. This is kind of like, this is where the project gets hard because they'll put in random stuff in here that kind of does not apply to you because you're not actually there in person. But this would be a manual entry technically because you'd have to ship it out. But since it's already shipped, I think it may actually say that. Yeah, it says shipped goods, so that's kind of how you know whether or not it's shipped. Um, So that's how you know you can move past it. So, and then here you are. So you go past, bill of lading's done, invoice is done, customer purchase is done. Okay, so boom. So where are we at? I don't think that's it. I feel like there's another thing that you have to do. Yeah, okay, so here you go. So, you can kind of tell like, oh, okay, here's all my electric documents, and then you go here. Oh, okay, so it tells you to go to the next page. So remember that. You go to the next page, so you're not done. Don't forget. And then you go from here. So is it a cash or credit sale? It is a credit. So you're going to go to entry in sales journal or accounts receivable subsidiary ledger. So we have finished two documents here. We have finished the bill of lading, and we have, well, actually three technically. You've signed the purchase order, you've done the bill of lading, and now you've done the invoice, okay? Except that little number that we're going to go over. So now, what is the next step? We need to kind of discuss or rather, we need to make the entries. So make entries. Pretty much everything in this project is going to have an entry, and you'll kind of begin to realize that. So when you do a manual kind of document, kind of get to realize that you're going to have to do some sort of entry. And for this instance, it's going to say sales journal and accounts receivable subsidiary. So let's move forward to that. So you're going to go to I always start with the top one. So if it's a sales journal first, I go sales journal. So my numbers are going to be a little bit different, obviously, and additionally, I'm going to have some extra numbers from future transactions, so kind of ignore that. As you can see here, it's going to be, okay, so this is what you would be typing, this little line. So we're going to actually ignore it for right now and kind of run through it. So first off, we're going to rewind. We're going to try to figure out what this number is. So this is essentially asking, you can't see it. This is asking what the account is, what their account is. Um, every kind of company has an account for their customers. So in this case, it's gonna be 406, and you figure that out by looking up here, and you can see they've done a previous transaction with Rosemont, and that is how you get the 406. Boom. So that's finished. So you can save this. You'd have your invoice done. Make sure to always right-click these. Make sure you have your preparation, and then you want to have your signature by the invoice. So boom, save. I would again remember you're going to be doing some sort of entry, so you're going to need some sort of information from that last one. This is where this comes in, the 14553. This number is going to be different from you, but this is basically your total of the sales invoice, which is actually calculated for you. So you don't need to do the math for that. So moving forward, so we have our sales invoice number, and we need to do our next part, sales journal. And then we're going to go here. And so we're going to type in the date, 16. And then we're going to type in the customer, Rosemont University. And then we're going to type in the invoice, which you get that invoice number from the document name. So it also can be shown at the top right of here. Okay. And then you're going to do the subsidiary account, which can be either found here or at this point you've already entered it. So you put again 406. You would post it because I wouldn't be able to tell you why, but just post it because everything else is posted. And now this is where it gets a little tricky. So you are shipping something out, you are having the customer paid for it. You're not having a sales return, check that off. You're not having a account receivable. Um, you're not gonna have, sorry, my mic died. You're not gonna have a credit for account receivable. You're not giving money. So you are receiving money from the customer, and you are going to credit a sales. Um, So boom, we know our matching principle from our other accounting classes. I assume everybody's taking accounting class at this point. So we need to know that these match this. So you would put your invoice number here. Whatever that sales total number is, you put that here. And then you would put a sales total here. Um, that kind of explains that sales is a revenue. So sales is a credit. If you're having troubles in your debits and credits, such as, what is considered a gain or a loss or where it goes. I don't know if we have enough time to discuss that. I would just say Google it. Google is a sales, a credit, or a debit. Um, or you can just look up, well, if I'm or you can ask ChatGPT, like for instance, if I'm debiting accounts receivable, what would I credit? It would probably tell you revenue or sales, or whatever is involved in the transaction. So boom, we're finished with this. That's done. So now, so 3A, transaction sales journal, done. 3B, um, is going to be, dude, I have so many tabs open. Where's it at? Okay, I think I closed the flowchart. Sorry, guys. But basically, the sales journal is showing you that you're gonna have to do accounts receivable subsidiary, where you move forward to this. You look for your customer's name. Another way you can find the invoice number, or sorry, not the invoice, the subsidiary number, um, is here. You see that you're doing Rosemont, that's your customer, and then you want to find December 16th, or actually in your case, it's not going to be on here, so you want to make a line here, and then you want to type in first off the date, 16th, and then you want to type in the full. You can just follow what this is, and then you want to type your debit, you're receiving money, and boom, done. So that is your pretty much conclusion um, in terms of this. I would say optional. I wouldn't say it's totally optional, but I didn't do it until the very end, so you don't really need to do it. Additionally, it doesn't really matter for your auto grading, so you can really just wait for this. I would say you can do it. These are kind of what mine look like. Don't take them for the answers 'cause I'm not sure if they're right. I went through it with Matthew, but I would basically say how this works for filing is, again, go to your instruction book. And I know it sucks reading this freaking packed thing of information. I hated reading it, but basically this explains your files. And since we were messing with an invoice, a bill of lading, and that's pretty much it. So it would create, after you have saved, every time it creates a temporary, it puts what you just did into a temporary folder, and then you want to drag your whatever the hell you just made into the folders that are assigned to it. So for this instance, just for the sake of explaining it, we have two invoices that were initially created. We have this one, the 731, and then we would have our, I think it's this one right here, the accounting, and then we'd have a bill of lading, and then you would have this one right here, I think, and then this right here. And it may honestly be one more. I don't know what you would guys have. The best way to explain it is use your common sense here. If it says customer, okay, customers are outsiders, they don't work here. If it says shipping or packing slip, let's think of when we receive some sort of something in the mail that's a packing slip, or what you once you go UPS, you put a packing slip on there. That's shipping. Shipping is shipping. Come on. I mean, that's pretty easy. And then accounting, if it says accounting, assume that's at accounting. If it says, well, that's pretty much it for right now. So, yep. We'll move forward. I'm not entirely sure if all these are right, so don't take that for, certainty. Don't just like screenshot it and expect it to be right. So, what I can tell you is that we're done with that. So, we have finished our first transaction. Wow, that took forever. Um, Also, I'm explaining it, so it probably takes a little bit longer. I'm not a teacher, but I want to help you guys out. So, transaction one is finished. We'll move on to transaction two. I'm only going to be doing the three transactions. In all honesty, they don't take that long. Really, it's just transaction one that takes a long time. So, transaction one, we're receiving an email notification from First American Bank. We're receiving a payment. So, what I would write is kind of like my pre-information. Um, Receiving a payment from First Bank. Um, and we're going to be messing with, actually, that's pretty much it. And actually, I would also note that it's an ACH payment rather than like some sort of like invoice or something like that. And yeah, it's digital, so it's email. So, all right, so then we're going to go ahead and go back to our flowchart. We're going to go find this. So how you would basically go about this is obviously either identify previous information. This is not needed because it doesn't exist. There is no 730. For me, that took me a while to figure out. I didn't have the information. So in this case, your only information would be the number that they provide to you, which is going to be, for my case, this number. Your number is probably going to be different. So Just keep that in mind. Um, so now number one, how you figure out what you need to do is basically go to your transaction, look at your flow chart, go to page 21, dun 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 dun. Here we are. So now we're gonna look into we're receiving money. So we're going to look here. Um, so receiving check or email. Boom, boom. Restrictly endorsed check. We don't need to do that because it's an email. It's not a check. So ignore that. That took me a while to figure out. And then you're gonna see here digital, digital, manual, nothing manual for us. Digital, digital, ignore. We're not doing a purchase order, so ignore. Email, okay. So here we are. Enter on cash pre-list. So here we are. So number two, your first document that you're messing with is a pre-list. Obviously, if you follow your flow chart, you'll find it here. So we'll go to our pre-list. Here we are. So how this is going to work is you're going to have it obviously blank here. I actually didn't have anything in here, so kind of ignore it. I didn't get any points wrong, so just ignore that, I guess, for right now. You're going to have all this blank, obviously date, December 16th, description, branch college. This is determined from, sorry, click every one, but from whoever the payment is for this instance is branch college. Second, you want to make sure what is the purpose of it. You cash sale, nope. Other, nope. You're receiving money, yep. Check or ACH. Like I mentioned before, it's an ACH here. So boom, ACH. Now invoice number, this is kind of where that comes in. I didn't write it, that was a mistake on my part. But in the transaction list, it would give you an invoice number, so that's kind of why they give that. So make sure to have that number on there. So then you would write invoice number, and then you want to write down your number of invoice. This is where it gets tricky. This took me a while to figure out. So you're going to have a number that they give you, which is this. And then you're going to have a number that is essentially the number before the discount that they were given. And the reason they were given a discount is because essentially let's see if I can find it in the instructions here, kind of to show you it. It might be on the next page. Oh, here it goes. Um, Essentially how this works is anybody who kind of receives an electronic payment or a check, they are given a discount. So that discount is 2/10. So um, it'd be like 0.98. And so like for instance, if you multiplied, this number by 0.98, or sorry, like if you multiplied this number by 0.98, you would get this number. And so how you get this number, which is what you all are probably thinking, what you do is you go to your, I believe, bear with me here, cash receipts journal. Nope. Hold on. Sorry, guys. I could have sworn it was in the cash receipts journal. It actually might be in the sales journal. Yep, here it is, sales journal. So, um, this is because if I could barely explain it to you guys, you've made a previous sale, and this point they're giving you money and you've given them a discount, so they're giving you less money that you recorded it for. Um, So now that you've determined what this number is, this number is going to look different from you. Essentially, what you want to look for is um, identify discounted or pre-discounted, or let's go with non-discounted number um, from sales journal. And now you want to go ahead and identify, or rather, you have your pre number, which is going to be like, I think it was like 1656 and maybe some change. Nope, no change. So now you've kind of gone there. You want to go back to your document. You want to go back to your pre-list, your document number 9, and then you want to go ahead and put that invoice. You would be able to know what this number is if we were provided the invoice, but since we are not, we have to use the sales journal. So that's what personally took me a while to figure out if anybody is kind of struggling out at this point. You want to go to your sales journal, ignore the invoice. It does not exist, and if it did, this would be a lot easier. But since it doesn't, we have to ignore that. Moving forward, you're basically putting that, and then you want to put the amount received, which basically comes from your transaction list. It's going to be whatever money you received here. And then finally, I didn't do anything for this. I don't know what you would do. I'm assuming to be some sort of initials, and you would put like it's since it's like a check, you have to do like either Kramer or Jim Adams. I probably would assume it's Jim Adams because it's just like a cash receipt. So um, we could check that right now if you guys would like. Yep, cash receipt Jim Adams. So you don't have to do it. I didn't do it. I didn't get the question wrong. So whatever. Don't just ignore it if you need to. So since we finished that, um, fill out pre-list. After you finish your pre-list, you go back to your flowchart. Boom, done. Okay, so we didn't get a check, we didn't get a we finished our pre-list, but we did get an email notification. So we have to scroll up to two. Agree deposit receipt. That has to do with checks. Ignore. That took me a while to figure out. ACH deposit notification. Okay. Pre-list to cash. Here we are. Pre-list to cash receipts journal. Now we have to do that. So two cash receipts. So look out for the small detail. It's not honestly a hard topic to figure out, but you have to know what to look for, and that's the hardest thing. So you want to go to your cash receipts journal, and at this point, you want to fill out what you just put in. So you just received, obviously 16th Branch College, NF, Nancy Ford. She's putting in the cash receipts. If you didn't know, you don't know how to know that, well, let's just look up here and put that. That's kind of how I did it at first. And now you want to go to your debit. So we're receiving money, so receiving in cash, it would say if you were on, on the account, it would probably say, accounts payable or accounts receivable. But since it's saying, we're just receiving, just assume it's cash. Since also, not to get too into it, we're on cash receipts. So, anyways, fast forward, so you put what you just received, and then you want to put the discount, or rather the difference between number one, the invoice number that you had previously in your pre-list, and then number two, the difference between the cash you received. So in this case, it'd be my sales discount, which is this right here. These numbers again, this one, and this one are all going to be different. So don't just copy my answers down. You're going to get them wrong. You have to do this yourself. But this number will be the same, and how you determine this number is going to be from boom, Branch College. Here it is, accounts receivable. Oh, it actually does show you the number. Wow, I actually just figured this out myself, guys. Sorry. So if you don't know where to find that number, here it is, guys. Look in your invoice. Boom, found it. Um, wow, that's awesome. I didn't know that. I'm learning stuff right now with you guys. Anyways, it's probably gonna be like an hour long video. Um, anyways, so where was I? Wow, I'm losing my train. Here we go. Cash receipts. So you would put that number from your let's just say here now, your accounts receivable. You put you here, and then you would put your invoice number here, and you would make the difference here, and then you would also put the number from your AC. You can also find it here as well. And then this is where it gets a little bit confusing whether you click check or not. The best way to kind of identify that is by guessing. I honestly don't know. And I would kind of identify it by just kind of like a glance of, well, where do the account numbers come into play? Okay, here, 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 and here. Are they all posted? Yep. So post it. So go ahead and post it since you have an account number here. If you didn't, like here, or if you had something like here, which is actually a transaction you'll have to do, um, you would not. So I really think it falls down to like if it's a, actually I don't know. Anyways, let's just move past that. So it's finished. Um, I think that's pretty much it. So transaction three, start again. Start for your description. Identify what you need. It's really important. Identify what is needed. So let's go ahead and look at that. We're having a ordering the following inventory on account. So we're having another purchase order. Okay. Um, but I believe we're the one ordering. So we're ordering the info. We're ordering basically restocking, if you will, our supply to sell. So I would say we're kind of more resellers, if anything. If you're really confused on what kind of business we are, we're like resellers of equipment. And for this case, this would basically be our warehouse, our manufacturer. Um, and we are ordering from our manufacturer these goods right here. So let's move forward. So we have a basically a purchase order going on. As you can see here, it gives you the document. So we're going to go ahead and additionally you can also, so let's start here. Let's number one. We are ordering purchase order from our manufacturer. Bear with me. I'm not an English major. I don't know spelling. Um, so we're ordering a purchase order for manufacturing people. Um, all this information, again, I highly recommend you have a second monitor or some sort of pictures. Just take a picture. I don't want to write this all down, so you can kind of identify why this would take forever. Okay, let me get a drink of water. All right. So this isn't as hard as it can seem to be. You want to go to your page 22 on your flowchart. We're one page off for the next page. All right, now we're purchasing. Oh, wow. You can also kind of see who's signing what because I just noticed the names are here. Wow, look at that. Sorry, that's another way you can see who signs what. Purchased, you can see the name here. Anyways, moving forward. Um, Here is basically our purchase order, which is what's going on. We're doing an oral requisition. That's already been done. That's a start. And now we want to prepare a pre-numbered purchase order. So we haven't done that yet. So we're going to be doing. It's going to be basically one of these. We're going to have to double check. It's probably going to tell you 328. Yep. Just going to give you a number because some of these are probably used. Like we can look into them for a little bit. These already exist for something else, so you kind of ignore that, but make sure to pay attention to the numbers they provide you, because or else it'll just be very confusing. So this one's going to be blank when you first get it. Again, figuring out what determine or what information you've either already have or what's given to you is very important here. All of this information appears given to you. You can acronym it, I think is to get it right, but you do this, this is all in the first part. Anyways, you guys can probably have already understood this spread though. It's just information you get from the transaction. And now here you are. So, boom, 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 interstate motor freights. If you don't know how this works, I think it's on there. Yeah, never mind. There's no freight term. It would have that mentioned, so you just put none, or you can leave it blank, or you can just put none, or I put none. Okay, so now here we are. So these numbers are going to be different, probably. I don't know. But you want to put the units they ordered. Boom. Right? Completely. That's just a copy and paste. And now you want to put the things that they put here. Okay. Boom. Copy and paste from the transaction. It's going to autocomplete for you. Now this is where it gets different. This is where you have to actually, look into things. How much does it cost? Okay. We got our price list. It actually will tell you in the transaction to use your price list. So try to pay attention to the instructions for sure. It'll help you out. Um, and then here you go. Go ahead and find your, whatever these numbers are and your cost. Since you are not selling them, you are buying them, which is right here. This is the cost list. So, um, just pretty self-explanatory. Your numbers are going to be different because we all have different price lists, but just copy and paste them or identify it. You can use tricks like Control F and you can type in the number and it'll just highlight all of that. So, boom, that's done. If you're confused on who signs this, this is where this flowchart comes in hand. Purchase order approved and signed by Kramer. Oh, okay. Boom. Signed by Kramer. Done. So we've prepared it. Purchase order's done. It's been signed. Um, it's approved. That's what that basically means. And then you want to essentially, that's where you're done. Um, because it says no receiving recording occurs at this point. Because um, your stuff hasn't been done. So I've had a question on the discussion board. It was asking, do we file? Follow your transaction instructions first, I would say. It says file purchase orders copied following the flowchart guidance. So in this case, this would be a little bit different, or rather confusing, because every other file is kind of self-explanatory. From this point, you would get like, I think like 4 files or something like that. You'd have like first off, um, you'd have 2 files, I think. You'd have I don't remember. I'm gonna be honest, I don't remember. Um, well, shit. Oh, sorry guys, I almost just cursed. Um, I don't know. Um, the way you would file this, I can't see, I don't remember what it is. I may have written it down. See, I don't know. I don't know what you guys have on your filing cabinet. I'm sure if you look at mine, you can kind of identify what goes to what. And so that's probably the best help I can give you. If I could explain it, the best way is to follow your flowchart. VTC, I mean, it means this. So, yeah. So go to one, it goes to accounting. If it's something to do with like money, it's accounting. If it's something like you're getting a loan or you're getting something that's banking, if it's something like it's going to somebody, it's the co-signee or customers, it's outsiders. And then if it's something like shipping, it's going to be shipper. So I think this is actually it right here. Um, yeah, vendor. So and then it's probably another one, purchase order 328 accounting. Yeah, so yeah, here it is. So these two. So the vendor would go to the outsider since it's the vendor. The way you would figure that out is because here, to supplier, vendor, and then you'd have here, um, vendor invoice, boom, boom. I don't think you need to do anything in this because you haven't received anything, so you don't need to resolve differences in quantities and prices. So, and I don't think you need to do this. I don't know, I don't remember. Let me, sorry guys, let me double check. Oops, sorry guys, I just played a video. Um, yeah, so I don't think so. I think I'll probably cut this out because yeah, I'm gonna cut this out. But yeah, so yeah, you would just be basically done there. Just file it and be done. Um, so yeah, that's done. And so everything after that kind of follows the same list as you can kind of tell what I've just done by the first three. Everything is like, oh, okay, so you're receiving, write that down, follow like having your predetermined information, and then okay, what's the next? Go to your flow chart. You're receiving office supplies, so you want to go ahead and be like, oh, okay, so I'm receiving office supplies in a purchase order. Okay. Kind of briefly run through that. I'm not gonna do the full thing, but purchase order. Oh, okay, here it is. And then you want to be like, oh, I'm on 22. I'm receiving goods. Pre-numbered receiving report. Okay. Let's go make a receiving report. You would do that on like I think it's the first one, and boom. So you would just do that. So and then probably after that, you would just do like, oh, it's gonna ask you to do some sort of like. Actually, that's it. I think you may have to do something in some sort of like entry. Um, yeah, you would do an entry. So make an entry in account. I think it's an entry, and journal and purchases journal because you're purchasing stuff. So you do like purchases journal, and I think it's probably on here somewhere. 19, yeah. So and then you would do like your payable. Wait, is it payable? No, no, sorry. Hold on. What was it? Sorry, guys. I mean, I know I wasn't gonna go over it. Oh, I just lost the flowchart. Well, anyways, you'll figure it out. I think it's not that bad. I think a lot of the stuff's kind of like reliant based off of like knowing where to go. I will say it was very hard for me at the beginning. And now I kind of understand everything. Not everything for sure, as you can kind of tell from the recording at the beginning. I definitely learned a lot of stuff with you guys, but if you just follow like the general flow chart here, account payables. No, it is. What date is that? 19. Oh, because it's in the wrong one. No wonder. Here it is. So yeah, you would do that. Okay. Sorry guys. I just want to verify that I did it right. Yeah, so that's what it'd be. And then the great thing I would say, kind of like a last minute thing, is your check figures. So how these work is it basically shows you what the number should be, and it's kind of like a rudimentary auto grading system. If this has an X on it, that means you did something wrong. I would also say do all your transactions first and then come to here before you do your auto grading, and then even do a TA thing with Matthew if you would like, and then auto grade. These will basically show you if your numbers don't add up, and at the end of the day, if you do everything right, your numbers will add up. The only way you get this wrong, or you at least, if you, all these are right, you'd get like a 70%, 80% minimum. And then you would start getting like, I guess, like document things wrong from that point on. So if you just like straight up just put the numbers in your ledgers and your journals. And yeah, so that's kind of like a general gist of the first three entries. I understand it's a lot of work and it does make a lot of like there's a lot of information. Yeah, 100%. So just take it as you go. I mean, this kind of like transaction three, we fulfilled a or filled out a purchase order, and that was it. Transaction. So boom. So the three are done. And so hopefully this video ended up helping you. I just want to basically show you guys what you can do to um, get to the end. I understand this is a longer video, so you might be scared. It's like a 15-minute video. I'm gonna try to cut this down, but it took me 15 minutes to record this, and I hope everybody kind of learns from this. So thank you guys for watching. Hopefully.